Hello, you're tuning into VTV News, brought to you live from Hanoi. I'm Michael Liu with the top news for this hour. Prime Minister speaks to President-elect Donald Trump. Then later on, Vietnam highlight of Asia 2017. And finally, Halong Bay among top 10 UNESCO wonders. First off, Prime Minister Phuc had a phone call with US President-elect Donald Trump on December 14th US time. Prime Minister Phuc took this opportunity to congratulate Donald Trump on being elected as the 45th President of the United States of America and once again reiterated Vietnam's deep appreciation of Vietnam-US bilateral ties. In response, President-elect Donald Trump expressed that he highly values the progress the two countries have made in recent years. He then conveyed his wish to continue working together with Vietnam to boost economic and trade development. The 11th Global Summit of Women Speakers of Parliament concluded on December 13th with the Abu Dhabi Declaration, which stressed the willingness of parliamentarians to work together to address common challenges.
According to the Inter-Parliamentary Union President Saber Chowdhury, the declaration underscored the 38 provisions of the Declaration of the Fourth World Conference of Speakers of Parliament. Chowdhury said this was building a world that people want and reiterated the principles and recommended actions to promote gender equality. It also asked the Union to consider an international parliamentary declaration on protecting and promoting human rights and the value of tolerance to ensure peace and security.
The first is, of course, peace and security. And we live in a very troubled world, a very complex world, where peace threatens to undermine all the progress that we have made. So very rightly, very appropriately, peace and security features as one of our most important points. And we look upon peace not just in terms of absence of violence, it is actually having in place the conditions that allows us to fulfill our full potential as individuals.
The Abu Dhabi Declaration also encouraged cooperation between legislative bodies, the private sector and public to jointly implement sustainable development goals.
Now, despite facing many challenges, Asia still maintains good growth in 2017. Among them, Vietnam is considered as one of the bright spots on the economic growth and political stability. This was the opinion of experts at the Asia 2017 conference held by the Asia Society, the prestigious research agency based in New York, recently.
Experts all agreed that China, the world's second biggest economy, will have to deal with many risks in 2017 following new scenarios in the U.S.-China relations under the leadership of the U.S. President-elect Donald Trump. Meanwhile, other regional economies, especially those in the ASEAN bloc, have sustained a positive growth.
Well, as I said, that for Asia, the big risk is China. But I think that outside of China, the prospects look pretty good because I feel that all these economies, from Vietnam to Philippines, Indonesia, all these economies will continue to grow at a good rate, 5 to 6% or so. And remember that in a world when the global economy is barely growing at 3%, a growth rate of 5 to 6% is very good.
In 2017, Asia is forecasted to be a dynamic economy but will face uncertainties at the same time, particularly the nuclear issue in the Korean peninsula. Under the context, Vietnam is considered to be in the spotlight thanks to its political stability and some initial success in economic reforms. Consensus was reached among experts that Vietnam's role and position has been increasingly recognized in the region.
I think Vietnam is very well respected within the Asia-Pacific. Vietnam is one of the fastest growing economies. Vietnam's export engine is growing substantially. So I think many countries in the region recognize the successes of Vietnam's economic reform.
In my book, The Rise and Fall of Nations, what I've done is that in the final chapter, I have outlined which countries I think look good, average and ugly for the next 5 to 10 years. Vietnam, I think, ranks good. And the reason I feel relatively optimistic on Vietnam is because how well its manufacturing sector is doing and the fact that how competitive it is.
According to experts, Vietnam needs to continue its economic reform, review its financial system, and the reforms of state-owned enterprises. Under the scenario that the U.S. withdraws from the TPP, those efforts can still secure long-term success for the Vietnamese economy.
Now, a Ministry of Foreign Affairs meeting reviewing regional cooperation in the time to come concluded that the ASEAN Community, established in December last year, had contributed to significant progress for the bloc over the recent period.
In 2016, cooperation in ASEAN has achieved significant results, such as constructing the Master Plan on ASEAN Connectivity 2025 and Phase 3 of the Initiative for ASEAN Integration. Among ASEAN countries, Vietnam has been an active member, contributing to boosting solidarity and the role of ASEAN in coping with regional challenges, including in relation to East Sea issues. However, the meeting pointed out that Vietnam needed to address shortcomings to enhance cooperation between Vietnam and ASEAN.
There should be changes or a new approach to cooperation between Vietnam and ASEAN. Meanwhile, the participation of related agencies in this issue has not been active, and the capacity of related staff hasn't met the need of managing cooperation between Vietnam and the bloc. So challenges still remain.
The meeting also discussed cooperation plans for 2017. Vietnam will continue implementing the program of developing the ASEAN Community towards 2025. In addition, the country will also continue completing the legal framework to improve the effectiveness of related agencies and cooperation between ASEAN member states and between ASEAN and other partners.
The Institute of Transport Science and Technology celebrated the 60th anniversary of its establishment at a ceremony on Wednesday morning in Hanoi. Vice President Dang Thi presided over the event. Established in 1956, the Institute has focused on scientific research to improve the quality of construction management and maintenance of transport infrastructure. Vice President Ting awarded the Institute with the Independence Medal First Class as well as other honours. Hanoi test ran a new bus route connecting Nguyen and Kim A today. The route begins at Kim A bus station, stops at Giang Võ, through Lang Ha, Le Van Luong, To Hu and ends at Yên Nghĩa bus station. The route has a total travel distance of 14.7 kilometres with 21 stops. Each bus operating on this route can carry up to 90 passengers and one bus can be expected every 3 minutes. The Hanoi Department of Transport plans to prohibit certain vehicles from entering the city centre and stopping near these stops during peak hours. The department is still conducting research to finalise the project. Now, Ha Giang orange is a famous local specialty. Recently, the oranges have become more attractive to consumers due to planting procedures complying with the Vietgap standard. A contest to promote the image of Ha Giang oranges is held in the province annually. More in the following report.
Mr. Chien has been growing oranges for the past 24 years. This year, he's decided to participate in the contest to introduce his oranges to the market.
Oranges that originate from Ha Giang province are our pride. We want to make it known to the world and also generate more income and benefits from it.
60 households growing oranges under the Vietgap standards participated in the Ha Giang Orange competition. The farmers from 3 districts in Ha Giang province. A trade promotion for Ha Giang oranges was recently held for the first time in Ha Giang. Many big domestic retailers such as Big C, Metro, Coop Mart and Phoebe Mart attended the event. They have signed contracts with farmers in Ha Giang.
After 5 years of implementation, this oranges planting model has met the VietGAP standard and has satisfied market demand. Therefore, we are ready to introduce these products to the market and accelerate the cooperation between enterprises and farmers.
Also at this meeting, Ha Giang oranges have received the branding certificate issued by the Department of Intellectual Property. This also contributes to the branding of this specialty of Ha Giang to domestic and international markets.
Also in the agricultural domain, now the Vietnam Food Association have suggested Vietnam should reduce its rice exports from 7 to 8 million tonnes to 2 to 3 million tonnes until 2020 because of the difficulties exporters are facing and falling production due to climate change. Speaking at a seminar in Ho Chi Minh City on December 13th, Vietnam Food Association Chairman Huỳnh Thế Năng said Vietnam had exported 4.5 million tonnes of the grain so far this year, an on-year decrease of 25%. Exporters are facing challenges in the form of increasing supply and competition from traditional and emerging rice export countries like Thailand, India, Pakistan and Myanmar. Major importers like the Philippines, Malaysia and China are increasing production to reduce imports and enhance quality control on imports. Drought and saltwater intrusion have seriously affected rice production in the Mekong Delta, with output in the 2015 to 2016 winter-spring rice crop falling by over 1 million tonnes. So how's the Vietnamese dong performing at the moment? Let's check out the following charts. Still to come on VTV News, flood affects farmers in Bar River downstream. And later on, ASEAN beauty depicted through graphic art. Stay tuned for more to come in just a moment. Now, continuous heavy rain during the past few days has caused severe flooding in rivers in Guangxi and Phuc provinces. It is forecasted that the situation will continue till the end of December 17th. The daily maximum rainfall from Guangxi to Khánh Hòa province is forecasted to reach over 200 millimeters. Rainfall in Thừa Thiên Huế province and Bình Định province can reach 300 to 400 millimeters.
At Thừa Thiên Huế province, the flood has caused 1 death. Many regions have been flooded. Schools in Phu Loc, Quang Dien and Phu Vang districts have been closed since December the 14th. In Quảng Nam province, many hydropower plants have released water due to continuous heavy rain. Road 611 connecting Quế Sơn to Nông Sơn district is submerged underwater. In Bình Định province, Quy Nhơn city is flooded. Road 640 is also flooded. Local authorities and the Provincial Committee for Disaster Prevention, Search and Rescue have been following the flooding situation and have provided the necessary support measures.
Prime Minister Nguyen Phuc himself sent a letter of commendation to the teachers of An Hiệp Kindergarten in Phuc province. In the letter, the Prime Minister applauded them for their efforts in protecting children in the face of danger posed by the flood on Tuesday. He also praised their sense of bravery and responsibility. The government's leader did not hide his emotions over the teachers' attitudes and willingness to sacrifice their lives to protect their students. The Prime Minister also asked local authorities to quickly implement damage remedies and allow the students to resume their education. Moving on to some other news, flood after flood has turned local people's lives upside down, with production suffering severe damage throughout south central provinces recently. This disaster has forced many farmers to work through these difficulties. For timely agricultural production, farmers are still working hard despite the floods. The story from Bar River in Phuc province will tell us more.
For the last 2 days, the gladiola flower fields have been submerged underwater. Today, hydropower plants in Phuc province have controlled flooding and water volume has been cut in half. Floodwaters have slowly receded, but this is what's left on the field.
Normally after the 23rd of October, and there's usually no flood. It's only happening this year.
What concerns farmers is that if mud covers the flower field, it can affect the root of the flowers. The farmers try their best to save their flower fields since each farmer has invested an average of $700 to $1,000 for a 500 square meter flower field.
Floodwater came in the first time, but the second time it was even worse.
The Ba River downstream Bình Ngọc commune alone has seen 25 hectares of gladiola flower damaged. It is estimated that the damage caused by flooding is up to $250,000, resulting in both capital and investment losses. Farmers are concerned with how to manage the fields that have been affected by floods.
Right now, the farmers need to salvage what remains in order to prepare flowers for Tết. The land is completely affected and they are unable to grow other crops.
These gladiola flowers were grown especially for Tết. This year, floods have upset farmers' production. It is not easy to remove all the gladiola fields damaged by floods or to grow new crops. The farmers have no hope of profiting from Tết.
In some other news, children are the most vulnerable to change. To provide a comprehensive picture of the overall impacts of climate change on children, the United Nations Children's Fund, otherwise called UNICEF, in Vietnam, in cooperation with the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, conducted a survey to assess the risk of natural disasters related to children in drought-stricken Ninh Thuận province.
A water filter machine, guiding children how to properly wash their hands. Games that simulate flood or disaster situations and responses for children. This is one of the activities conducted by UNICEF to provide humanitarian assistance for water and sanitation in Ninh Thuận. It is particularly focused on raising awareness among children about disasters and how to mitigate the risk they are exposed to by natural disasters.
And we've seen today good examples and how children are taught about the importance of being ready for hazards and disaster. With some of them avoiding the fall of trees, with some of them avoiding issues of rain, flooding. So that's important as a foundational for disaster risk reduction. I think what happened in the 10 provinces can be really illustrated by what we are doing.
Through this support, we can educate children to save water, use water at the right time, knowing when to wash their hands, and raise awareness among children about body hygiene and water protection.
The harshest droughts in the past decades in Ninh Thuận have had a huge impact on people's lives, leaving more than 50,000 people suffering from hunger and a lack of water. Many cases of children with severe malnutrition have been reported in the province. Thanks to these activities, nutritional awareness among children, especially in areas with ethnic groups, have been raised. Screening and nutritional care instructions have helped many mothers become more confident about taking care of their children.
Thanks to the knowledge that they passed on, I understand more about the nutrition my baby needs, so that she is no longer malnourished. I'm very confident about taking care of my baby now.
Prolonged disasters such as drought, flooding or saltwater intrusion have occurred in recent years, leaving long-term consequences for child welfare in terms of nutrition, health, education and child protection. Therefore, to put children at the center of risk and disaster prevention is essential and needs the support of the whole community.
Over 200,000 HIV/AIDS victims are expected to receive health insurance according to the latest draft amendment to the health insurance law, which is officially effective from February onwards. Until now, medical expenses for antivirus and HIV treatments are still covered by international aid. However, this source of funding will be depleted by next year and is expected to be cut by 2018. Therefore, the Ministry of Health has decided to step in to guarantee the well-being of those affected by HIV. Only 30 to 40% of HIV patients are currently under health insurance, making these recent developments great news for the HIV community. More than 2,000 households in Mung Tae and Nop Nhun districts, Lai Châu province, have moved to their new resettlement areas to make way for the construction of the Lai Châu hydroelectric power plants. Despite a lack of farmland, their lives in the new settlement have become stable.
Some 150 houses have been built on the banks of Bum Neo River in Mung Tae town. In this new settlement, not only does Kot's family have a bigger house, but they also have space for their pig farm. His wife's suing also helps the family improve their livelihood.
The roads in our old settlement were narrow and difficult to travel on, but we feel better about it here. There are schools and also a communal house where we can gather. We're very happy about it.
Lai Chau's provincial authorities have paid special attention to infrastructure for resettlement areas. For example, this road connects resettlement areas together. There is also a system to provide clean water for households. Kindergartens, primary and secondary school are all invested based on the Ministry of Education and Training standards, ensuring all school-age children can go to school.
There were no school or kindergarten where we used to live, but here we can send our children to school. We don't need to worry about them anymore.
The resettlement plan for Lai Châu hydroelectric plant is mainly focused on Mung Tae district. Over 2,000 households have moved to the new settlement.
People in the new settlement have stabilized their production. However, some are still facing difficulties due to a lack of farmland. The province has also allocated some sites for people to develop farming. We have changed some crops to banana and cinnamon for next year.
Despite the difficulties, people's lives have been gradually stabilized. Provincial authorities and Vietnam Electricity Corporation have helped them with their production through allocating more farmland and supporting them in land reclamation.
Ha Long Bay has been recognized as one of the 10 most impressive UNESCO wonders of Asia. This is according to travel website Rough Guide's latest report. Ha Long Bay is ranked third on the list. The natural wonder was officially recognized as a World Natural Heritage Site in 1994. Ha Long Bay possesses over 1,600 islands and many wondrous caves. This has made the area a mysterious and exhilarating attraction for domestic and international tourists. An award ceremony for the most outstanding entries in the ASEAN Vietnam Graphic Arts competition was recently held. This was the second event of its kind, which was co-organised by the Ministry of Sports, Culture and Tourism and ASEAN countries' embassies in Vietnam. The event drew the participation of Deputy Prime Minister Vũ Đức Đam. This year's contest received 340 entries from 198 artists. Only 11 of these were selected for awards and half of them came from Thailand. These artworks feature 3D printing and aim to depict the beauty of ASEAN cultures and their people. After the ceremony, over 100 entries from the contest will be exhibited at the Vietnam Arts Museum. Have you ever thought of sticky tape as a material for art? It might seem ridiculous, but street artist from Tape That from Germany has created lively multi-dimensional art pieces using only tape. The following will introduce you to this art form.
These pieces are called unicorn, silver wolf, rose, and lotus. These contemporary tape art pieces are made by the students from street artist group Tape That's art class.
Tape is very flexible and can be easily cut and shaped. It may not look like something you can envision at first, but when you tape it, it becomes something else. It really activates your imagination.
What creates the striking quality of these tape art pieces are the simple edges and lines.
Tape as a medium restricts you on the one hand, but it gives you a lot of possibilities and opportunities on the other, because you can make, for example, a very, very long, very straight line, and that's hard with any other medium, like a spray can or a brush, for example. You don't have really, you're restricted to the colors that you have. You cannot mix them like with acrylic paint.
Tape That is the German street artist group formed in 2011 with 6 members. In their first tour to Vietnam, Tape That brought a new way to express creativity to Vietnamese young people.
Well, when we give tape art workshops, we usually give some inspirations. It's more like a trial and error thing. You know, the good thing about tape is when you put it on the canvas, you don't like it, you put it back off.
Any material, even as simple as this roll of tape, can be made into contemporary art that bonds the community. That's the message that Tape That conveys in their works. On their first visit to Vietnam after visiting Hanoi, the group will continue to bring their tape art to Ho Chi Minh City from the 15th to 18th of December. Tiến Anh, Vietnam Television, Hanoi.
Now, just before we say goodbye, let's take a look at the latest weather forecast. That has concluded this edition of VTV News. Now please log on to vtv4.vn or youtube.com/vtv4go for more of our content. Goodbye for now and thanks for stopping by.